A few days later, after completing all the formalities, I took my luggage and left my parents-in-law's house. I told my mother-in-law that I was leaving today. I bowed to her as a gesture of respect. In response, my mother-in-law glared at me. "You've been a lousy wife and a lousy mother from beginning to end," she said. "You're the worst mother for leaving your kids." She continued to mock me, and my daughter and son laughed at her remarks. My name is Maria, a 42-year-old housewife. I live with my husband Ken, my son Josh, and my daughter Amy. Our children have grown up well, and my husband works hard, so we live peacefully without any particular problems. However, things have changed recently. My father-in-law passed away due to illness, and my mother-in-law moved in with us. My husband, being her only son, felt sorry for her being alone and brought her to our house without consulting us. I had always thought that my husband was too much of a mommy's boy, but I didn't think he would decide for her to move in with us by himself. He told us that he had already sold his parents-in-law's house. "Are you asking me to abandon my mother who has nowhere to go?" he said to me with such an attitude, and I had to give in. After that, honestly, it was hell. My mother-in-law had not liked me for a long time, so she would pick on me at every opportunity. "Maria, what is this seasoning?" she'd ask. "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be careful," I'd reply. "And I don't like greasy food." "Well, we have children who are growing up fast, and my husband likes fried food too. Then please make a separate meal for me. I hope you don't want me to eat unhealthy food so I die early." "No, it's not like that, but it would cost more money and be a bit of a hassle." "That's where your skills come in. Ken earns enough money, so why don't you manage the finances and the hassle? You are so spoiled." When I was young, I took care of the house chores by myself. No matter how hard it was, my mother-in-law would say. "What a pity that my grandchildren have to live in a house run by such a lazy mother. I feel sorry for them." I thought to myself, if you have so much to say, why don't you do it? But I held back, because if I tried to talk back even a little, my husband would get mad at me 100 times over. When I first moved in with my mother-in-law, she was so overbearing that I objected to her constant criticism by saying, "If you're so opinionated, why don't you do it yourself?" My mother-in-law then complained to my husband, and he got angry, saying, "How dare you talk to her like that when I'm the one supporting you?" I thought about getting a divorce, but as a housewife, I wouldn't be able to take care of the children. They are my treasures, and I don't want them taken away from me, so I decided to endure the abuse without objection. However, instead of just putting up with it, I started to prepare for a divorce little by little. I applied for jobs at various companies under the watchful eye of my mother-in-law, who was home all day long. Only one company offered me a part-time position. Thanks to my previous experience as a bank clerk, I was able to get a clerical job at a bank. It was my first corporate job in a long time, and it was a lot of fun. Of course, there was a lot of responsibility and stress that came with it. Still, it was more peaceful than seeing my mother-in-law at home all the time. But my mother-in-law didn't like the fact that I was working. Why work when Ken earns enough salary? Maybe she's out scavenging for men? She would insinuate, her words dripping with malice. What kind of thought process is that? A total idiot. It's not that my husband doesn't make a lot of money, but since his mother started living with us, our expenses have increased. We're not in a situation where we can afford everything. However, my mother-in-law insisted that I give her an allowance for my earnings so that I wouldn't spend it on men. When I refused and said it was not possible, she complained to my husband again. That night, when my husband came home from work, he yelled at me as he had done before. "Are you having an affair?" he demanded. "Huh, I'm not," I replied, shocked. "That's what my mother said. She said you're using your part-time salary to pay for men. I'm not doing that." "Why do you believe your mother's lies?" "Shut up. Then give her an allowance to prove you're innocent." "Oh no," I muttered, feeling defeated. Then my mother-in-law came in with a smirk on her face. "500 a month," she demanded. "That much?" I exclaimed. That's what my mother says, so give it to her, my husband ordered. In the end, I was defeated by the momentum of the two of them. I had to give most of the money I earned from my part-time job to my mother-in-law as an allowance. To make matters worse, my mother-in-law told the children, "Your mother is a horrible adulterer," with a smirk on her face. Even junior high school kids know what that means, and to tell them a lie like that is just awful. It was not fair at all, and it was ruining me completely. Then something happened to make the situation worse. I found out that my husband was having an affair. Despite suspecting me of infidelity, he was the one cheating. This pushed me over the edge. They say that when you reach your limits, you just blow it all out of the water. I didn't want to spend even 1 second with these jerks, so I immediately went to get the divorce papers. "I don't want to stay in this house after you had an affair," I said as I confronted my husband with the divorce papers. He laughed at me and said, "Well, I don't want an old woman like you in my house." I'm sure he intended to be with his adulterous partner after the divorce. He agreed to pay alimony and share the property without any objection. When the children were asked what they wanted to do, they both said they were going to stay in the house. My mother-in-law grinned at me and said, "I knew you liked your father better than this woman." A few days later, after completing all the formalities, I took my luggage and left my parents-in-law's house. In the living room, I informed my mother-in-law that I would be leaving today and bowed to her as a gesture of respect. She grinned at me again and sarcastically remarked, "You've been a lousy wife and a lousy mother from the beginning to the end." Then she added, "You're such a terrible mother to leave your children. I don't know how much you can make fun of me." My daughter and son laughed at my mother-in-law's comments, and she seized the opportunity to mock me further. "Look, even the children are laughing at you. What a pathetic mother." Well, it was actually the children themselves who said they would stay here, so I'm not leaving them, I retorted. "Oh, I see. So you're a sad woman who was abandoned by her children," she replied coldly. "Well, you can say what you want, but don't forget that you're responsible for everything at home from now on. Don't worry about that. Unlike you, I'm good at everything," I shot back. "I see. Well then, I really must be going now," I declared, and with that, I left my parents-in-law's house. After leaving my parents-in-law's house, I returned to my parents' house and threw myself into my work. I requested to switch to full-time hours and took the test to become a full-time employee. Thankfully, I was successful in securing a full-time job. Now I could take the kids with me, and my mother-in-law must have been exhausted by then. Sure enough, about 3 months after I left the house, my mother-in-law contacted me. "Hey, Maria, help me out," she pleaded. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I have to take my grandson, Josh, to and from his soccer team games, and I even have to help out at a training camp during the summer vacation. On top of that, I'm asked to make his lunchbox early in the morning for the morning practice, and I have to wash his dirty uniforms every day. My granddaughter, Amy, also goes to cram school every day, so I have to drive her back and forth. And on top of all that, I have to do the housework all by myself. Ken says he's tired from work and doesn't do anything to help me." "Well, if you're just complaining, I'm hanging up now," I retorted. "Wait, I'm calling you because I want you to help me, Maria," she pleaded desperately. "Excuse me, I'm already divorced, so it doesn't concern me," I replied firmly. "Don't say that, please," she begged. "No, I won't go back," I stated firmly before ending the call, "but I understand that you're in a situation that you cannot handle by yourself. I cannot entrust my precious children to you." "I will take the children," my mother-in-law declared. "What? But they want to stay here," I protested. "That's because they wanted you to understand how hard I was working," she explained. "What?" I exclaimed, taken aback. Yes, in fact, when I decided to get divorced, the first thing I did was to talk to the children. They said they would follow me right away. Amy, my daughter, said, "But this means that grandmother and the others are just kicking you out, right, Mom?" Then my son said, "I don't like that. We know how hard you work, Mom." So the children said that they would stay home first and let their grandmother know what their mother had gone through. my mother-in-law continued. I was so happy that they were on my side. I made up my mind that I would make enough money so I could come to bring them home. Well, then, I said, understanding the situation. Yes, everything was according to our plan. I'm not a full-time employee, and I'll take the kids, she concluded. Oh no, I muttered, realizing the gravity of the situation. I then hired a lawyer and demanded that custody be transferred. The children wanted to live with me, so custody was easily transferred. When I reported the affair to the company, his boss was amazed to hear it, and my husband was transferred to a department where he would not be able to advance in his career. Because of this, he could no longer pay the mortgage on the house he currently lives in. My mother-in-law has been ordered to work as well. My ex-mother-in-law is furious that her son is telling her what to do. My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law are blaming each other. They'll probably have to leave the house this way. Well, it's none of my business anymore. Meanwhile, I rented an apartment and moved in with my children. They are growing up to be wonderful children. My daughter cooks, and my son helps me with laundry and cleaning. I wanted to be able to support them to do whatever they want to do in the future, so I will continue to work hard and earn money.